Okay, everybody's talking about the new MacBook Pros, and some people are talking about the Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio. So in this video, I'm going to try to figure out if I could use the MacBook Pro 16-inch that I bought to test as a drawing device. I'm going to compare it to the Surface Laptop Studio, and we're going to do that right now. So the first thing I did is I hooked up our iPad Pro as a second display on the left, all the way on the left side of the screen. And I'm using Sketchbook Pro. And as you can see on this, right now I'm drawing on the Surface Laptop Studio, which it's good because it's an all-in-one device. I love it. But what I wanted to find out is, could the iPad Pro Plus MacBook, which is $1,000 more expensive than just having one device, is it a better workflow? The first thing I noticed right away, other than the Apple Pencil writing a little differently, I wouldn't say it's better. I believe the Surface Laptop Studio did catch up with the Surface Slim Pen 2. Maybe the Apple Pencil is 10% better. But one thing I did notice, besides my kids shaking the camera and bumping into the desk, is that it is good to have two screens if you have two computers. But if you just want to carry one device and draw, sketch, do presentations, then having the drawing device all in one computer is more convenient, unless you're doing a presentation, which is the reason why I'm testing this at all, because otherwise I would just not even pay attention to the MacBook as a drawing device. But I do a lot of presentations for marketing consulting. I help entrepreneurs start businesses online. If you're interested in that, reach out to me. But for example, I could be doing a Zoom presentation where I'm recording on one screen as I draw, but then I still have the other screen free. So if I'm not at the office or not at home, only having one screen is okay, but then I can't see everything else. Even though in Zoom, you could still see chat if you're using Zoom, but if I'm live streaming, I can't do that. So the issue is live streaming. I'm going to do another test with live streaming as well to see if the MacBook works well for live streaming, but then I can't use what I normally use for live streaming, which is XSplit, because XSplit does not work on Mac OS. And when I try to use Parallels for Windows on MacBook, the XSplit would open, but it wouldn't recognize the camera, or when it did recognize it, it would crash. So that's another issue I was dealing with when drawing with this next configuration, is my daughter drawing her famous dogs. And the problem with this is it took me hours to set up and get the drivers to work so that I could connect the Wacom screen to the MacBook. It's so much easier on Windows to get things to work. People used to say it was easier on Mac OS to get things to work, but nowadays, if you're buying multiple different devices and trying to get them to connect together, unless it's fully made for Mac OS and for Apple, it's not going to be plug and play. You have to make sure what you buy works specifically for the newest Mac OS. I think it's called Monterey. And you have to make sure you do drivers in a certain order and accept multiple different permissions. It's just like a cell phone, and I just don't understand that part about it. So it took 30 minutes or more to get this setup you're watching, where my daughter is drawing, to actually start working. Or probably longer than that. I had to watch 30 minutes of tutorials. I've been using computers, and I used an Apple computer 20 years ago, but On Windows, you just plug it, and then it tells you to go download the drivers, which I did, and then it works. On Mac, you have to go into the settings and then allow each piece of the program to use each input device, accessibility. You have to allow all these things, then you have to reset it. But after we did that, and you do that one time, it's pretty much the same experience if you're using the Wacom, other than the fact that my daughter did say it crashed once. But other than that, it's the same experience because then you're drawing on the Wacom screen. Then when we move over to using the Surface Laptop Studio with the Wacom, as you could see, then my daughter could actually draw on two screens. She could leave the desktop. Let's say she wants to go away from her desk, but she could keep drawing and come back. Obviously, if you were drawing on your iPad Pro as a secondary device, you could do that. But if your only art screen or presentation screen where you draw on the screen is the Wacom, then obviously you're stuck at the Wacom until you get a secondary device, maybe an iPad Pro. So you still have to end up getting more than one device if you're using the MacBook. But the benefits of the MacBook are the reasons that I got it: being very quiet, even on battery, long-lasting battery, very fast processor. So for example, if I wanted to make this a mobile drawing and presentation setup, I could take the MacBook with me and my iPad. And drawing on that, doing zooms, I know that the battery, if I for some reason wasn't able to be plugged in, would last a very long time. Hours, maybe 8 hours or longer with both of them, since the iPad Pro is a 2020. But the Surface Laptop Studio has Thunderbolt ports, so you could easily charge it with an external battery. That's $20 or $40. I think the ones that really charge fast are $40. But as you can see here, you can't do this, switching from one screen to the other and then starting to draw on the Wacom and then switch back to the Surface Laptop Studio for pinch and zoom. You can't do that on the MacBook. So the Surface Laptop Studio is more versatile. So if versatility is what you're looking for, the Surface Laptop Studio is it. If long battery life is what you want, because let's say you're in art school and you're not close to a power outlet, maybe just getting an iPad Pro with a backup battery, external battery, is probably the cheapest option. My second option would be the Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio. The base model will even be fine, and you'll get 8 hours of battery life if you put the brightness down to about 20%, which sounds bad, but you could still have an external battery for that. I know these devices claim they can last 12 to 16 hours, but that won't work if you're using it for that long, if you're using it for those hours consistently. But on the MacBook, if you use it for 12 hours, you're still gonna have some juice left. I have the 16-inch version, which lasts even longer, the M1 Pro, 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabyte SSD. So we'll do some more tests, but as you can see, I like this setup with the Surface Laptop Studio. I have both though, because the battery life is just so long on the MacBook. So for example, if I wanted my kids to do some drawing, like my daughter Grace does a lot of drawing for our new company called Fluffy Pets, so then that's good for her, because she doesn't have to be on the power. I could just take the laptop to the kitchen for hours, or if I need to leave the room. But the ultimate versatility is the Surface Laptop Studio. If I just wanted to have one device, that's the one I would have. I would just always be watching my battery percentage. One thing I love about this, other than the form factor, is it is Windows. I mean, Mac OS is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It just almost feels like it's in nanny mode. It's always asking you if you want to give permission, always trying to stop you from doing things you want to do. You have to go through 8 different steps to install software and give permission, whereas on Windows I don't have to do that. So for example, this is the Wacom monitor screen right here, and at the bottom, if I start writing on the screen with the pen, it just works. I don't have to install other apps to get that to work like I do on the MacBook. Obviously, you could always get an iPad, but then it's not really a real computer because of iPad OS. But other than that, I did like the experience, so it's just another option for us to draw on a different device. You know, we're not just using Windows, we're using Mac, iPad OS, iOS. We're using the best software available, so whatever works, that's what we're going to use. We even tested out, as you can see, my daughter tested out the Surface Pro. So this, to me, for portability is the ultimate option, because then you have a real computer, but then you can draw as she's doing. Again, she's testing the Surface Slim Pen 2. Really nice. Only downside, again, the only downside is the battery life. You wouldn't be able to have your screen at this brightness and it lasts 8 hours. You would have to have it at about 20%. And then still make sure you bring your charger with you. But other than that, the reason why I still chose the Surface Laptop Studio is because it has dedicated graphics, so I can render videos about 60 to 70% of the speed I would get on the MacBook in a smaller form factor. And if you're into games, you could play all the games on medium settings, and it's just a more versatile all-around computer because you have the touch screen, and then the pen just magnetizes at the bottom, so when you're done with it, you just put the pen at the bottom. But other than that, they seem to be all great options. It's just a matter of what choice do you want to make. You need battery life for 12 hours. If you need battery life for 12 hours and there's no way you could charge your device, which you can always get an external battery, you go with the MacBook and an iPad. But then you have 2 devices, and that's going to be over $3,000 unless you get the base model M1 MacBook, not the MacBook Pro. Then you're looking at a price similar to the Surface Laptop Studio. If versatility is your biggest option and you want one device to do everything, then I would recommend getting the Surface Laptop Studio. You're just going to make a compromise on battery life, but compromises are still what we have to do with technology. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and we'll keep doing further tests and let you know what we find out. This is Flo for the Tech Flow, signing out.